Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take on this hump day. It's Wednesday. It's going to be a really interesting day because of what we'd seen yesterday, as a matter of fact. We had a sharp dip early into the trading session yesterday for the Dow as well as the NASDAQ. We had a pretty nice sharp dip. Well, we recovered off of that dip, but we still finished into the red with the Dow. But the NASDAQ, on the other hand, actually started to move to the upside, started to accelerate to the upside and closed near the highs of the day, up about 40 points or thereabouts. Yeah, you got the Dow down about 30 points, but the S&P did hit fresh new highs. So another really interesting session because of the fact that, once again, we talk about this constricted movement. How about the volatility index hitting 52-week lows yesterday as well? So a few records here and there and some interesting sort of moves that we are seeing. How about crude oil? We hadn't seen since September of 2019, maybe, I believe it was. Maybe it's even going back further than that. I think it was either 2019, 2018, but the price of oil back up and above that 70 level. As a matter of fact, yesterday we were pushing 70, and in the after hours, we actually got up and above 70. And here today, we're actually trading well above 70 once again. So that's all pretty interesting. But Bitcoin, we've been talking about the fact that Bitcoin has had some volatility with it that actually completely got pushed to the side for the last week or so. Well, the volatility is starting to come back into Bitcoin because last night we had Bitcoin trading in the 31,000 levels after the market. So that was something. And as a matter of fact, today we're getting a pretty nice rally. We'll get into that in just a second. But consumer discretion, energy, those are the names that were the leadership role to the upside yesterday. That was something that stood out. But I'll tell you, the meme stocks just continue to be what everybody is talking about. Reddit stocks, whatever you want to call them, but incredible volumes. It's been very, very consistent. As a matter of fact, we're looking at Siri yesterday. That was one of the ones that I wanted to just show you as far as what we are seeing in there and all the rest of it. Just take a look at some of these charts and all, but the explosive moves that we're seeing, it is not just AMC, it's not just GameStop. There are so many other names out there. Siri is one of those names. Wish, the symbol Wish, which is context logic, that's another one of those names. It was up about, it was only up like 50% yesterday. It was only up about 30% in the after hours. It's just, the craziness just continues, and you've got to embrace that. I continue to say that, and I will continue to say that, because you don't get to pick the markets themselves that we are in, but you've got to trade within whatever those markets are delivering. That's what's delivering right now. Wendy's, Clove, we are seeing more and more other names start to build upon what we are calling the meme stocks, the Reddit stocks, whatever you want to call it. But it's just continuing on and on. We're seeing even a lot more of that today. So I mentioned oil, I mentioned it pushing towards 70, and we talked about energy being one of the leading sectors to the upside. Those beta names, absolutely on fire. As a matter of fact, the XOP with a 52-week high yesterday, and I oftentimes refer to that particular ETF, that energy ETF, because of the fact that that's where we see so many of these, what I call the beta names, the names that absolutely accelerate and move to the upside at an unbelievable clip. Yesterday, it was a name like Diamondback leading the charge, really driving some of this yesterday as we did hit those 52-week highs. Volumes, yeah, the volatility was low. Volumes, not so much. They're still continuing to be very, very strong. Traded about 38.7 million contracts yesterday, again, in the derivatives market. So when people say, well, I don't want to be involved in these meme stocks, all this kind of stuff, and there is ways, but you've got to understand the derivatives markets to be able to do this. And that's why you got to get educated first before jumping in, because you will have a bad experience along the way if you don't really fully understand what those risks are. But if you understand some of those risks, you'll understand why I'm saying the derivatives markets are the place to be with all of the craziness that we are seeing in the market specifically now. But you've got to have that knowledge. So kind of a quiet opening today. Certainly, it just sort of felt like kind of a ho-hum, sort of a Wednesday morning kind of a deal. And the Dow was just basically just been flatlined for going into the pre-market and then coming into the market itself. And it had been down a little bit. We started to look like we were going to maybe sell off pretty substantially. And the last I looked, we're trading about 34 to the upside, 34 points or thereabouts. The NASDAQ had been a little bit stronger. It started to run a little bit in the pre-market. We started to see a little bit of an acceleration, and we still holding on to about a 30-point move to the upside. So neither one of them really moving in any major meaningful way just yet. But some of those reopened stocks, at least in the pre-market, were certainly looking pretty interesting with some of the cruise ships and the airlines and the like. We were seeing a little bit of a driver there. So I mentioned crude. The last I checked, we were looking at crude around 70.50. So a pretty nice sharp move to the upside for crude oil, and certainly energy stocks reacting along with that. The 10-year back below 1.5. So that's sort of interesting as well as we start to dissect what's going on in the broader market itself. Bitcoin, nice bounce back. I talked about Bitcoin being in the 31,000 category in the post market yesterday. Well, it was in the 35,000 category this morning. So you can see that we are starting to maybe bubble up with a little bit more volatility. We'd had a lot of volatility in Bitcoin. It kind of subdued and we kind of had this constricted movement. And now it seems like it might be opening up once again. We certainly are seeing some pretty big moves lately, and at least in the last few hours in Bitcoin, pretty strong. The VIX, 16.5, 17, that seems to be the range where we find ourselves. I did say yesterday we hit those 52-week lows. We were in the 15s for some of that volatility index yesterday. So that was something that stands out, and that makes a lot of sense. We have seen, even with this movement that we've had, the movement has been much more subdued than some of the movement we had seen in the past in this market, where it's moving in hundreds of points levels, just it seems like in minutes. We're not quite seeing exactly that right now. So sectors early on, we were looking at financials, that was down a little bit. Industrials, they were down a little bit. Nothing was down more than 1% or even quite at 1%. Materials also were down early, down about 0.5%. But we did have tech, but we did have biotech actually moving up about 1%. So take a look at that XBI. I use that one oftentimes for when I'm trying to break down what's looking like in biotech world. And I'll tell you what, the XBI up about 1%, that's definitely an influence for the NASDAQ as well, oftentimes when you look in the healthcare world. So some of the movement that we are seeing in the earnings season continues, even though we are through the bulk of it all, of course. But Campbell's Soup, 6% to the downside. A lot of problems when you look through that report. Didn't look very comfortable because they were talking about inflation. They were talking about the supply chain. They were talking about profits and sales that disappointed, unfortunately. And then they lowered the full year guidance. So the entire report just kind of eased off of what has been something where we were looking at a lot of different areas that were absolutely crushing it. This certainly wasn't crushing it. But like I say, the XBI and the biotech index, that's certainly an area that we are seeing a little bit of strength, at least this morning. And in healthcare itself, you look over at Merck, you look at J&J, you look at Bristol Myers, all those types of names as well, moving to the upside. You got Vertex and Regeneron and Biogen. Biogen certainly has been a story that everybody has been watching very closely with that Alzheimer's news. So that's something that definitely will be around for a while, and that's hanging very close to that $400 level once again. So 2 unusuals, and we'll get out of here, and you can get the rest of your day going. And by the way, stay cool. But Skillz, that one stands out right out of the gate because this is one of those names in the meme world that's absolutely been on fire. It's trading 24.20. We had a buyer of 11,000 of the June 11. Yeah, that's Friday. The 28 calls, those are going for about 40 cents up to about 70 cents. We just continue to see activity in a lot of these various names. This is one of the names where it seems like we have been seeing very, very consistent upside speculation, certainly, and 11,000 of these, and they're fairly inexpensive. So you can understand the risk reward a little bit when you're looking at a trade like this. Solo. Now, this one's a little bit difficult. Me and Glenn were talking about this one, but I'll give it a shot. Electrameccanica. There you go. That's what I'm going to give you. It's a Canadian EV and custom motors. So it's a really interesting little company, but you probably have not heard of it. SOLO is the symbol there. Trading just underneath $5, trading $4.90 at the time. We had a buyer of 13,000 of Fridays expiring June 11th. Fridays expiring. The 5 strike calls, those were going for 11 cents up to about 35 cents. So very inexpensive, but the stock is right there. So any kind of movement, those options start to move to the upside in a pretty rapid pace. Folks, I got my bull shirt on right now. It's my giddy up shirt. I'll tell you what, if you want any of this stuff, because people hit me up all the time, social media asking, hey, I really like that shirt. I like that hat. I like all this stuff. Take a look at the giddy up section of the Minnesotan. I'll tell you what, they have a great website. They do an outstanding job. They've been shipping. They did a great job throughout the entire pandemic. And now that the stores have been open for a while, They are on fire, but they've got some really, really cool stuff. And if you want any of that type of stuff, just feel free to go out there. I'll tell you what, it's absolutely beautiful. The materials are unbelievable. And the beautiful part for us is they give us a percentage of the sales that goes to Twin Cities Lime Foundation, which is very nice of them. And we very much appreciate that. So if you want something like that, take a look. I'll tell you what, one of the most comfortable shirts, and I get stopped everywhere I go. If I'm going out to dinner with my wife and I happen to be wearing one of these types of shirts, everybody wants to know what it's about. So take a look at that at the Minnesota site. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. We got busy, man. We got the take. We got the halftime report. We got the 5 o'clock show, Fast Money. It's going to be a busy day. Look forward to that as well. Have a great day of trading.